Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Gyro. Today I'm finally ready to offer you the promised Arc Witch Elementalist build that I'm very excited about and that I know a lot of you were waiting for. In case you are very impatient, please use the chapters in the video timeline or the timestamp links in the description below. If you like the build or would like to show any sign of appreciation, please like the video and subscribe for more. That's much appreciated. Arc Witch is my longest running and among the most beginner-friendly witch builds of Path of Exile. It relies on one key gem and skill called Arc. Arc is a lightning spell and you get it at level 12. It shoots lightning at a target and then chains onto the other targets. This results in very satisfying gameplay of you shocking and electrifying everything ahead of you, sometimes several screens away. You are very squishy as a witch, so your playstyle will always be kill them first before they kill you. Arc Witch is the ultimate glass cannon build, and you will need to understand that, what you're getting yourself into I mean. Then you won't be disappointed. This particular build takes my classic Arc Witch construct one step further by using VAAL ARC skill that you can find in one of those red VAAL mini dungeon areas that you frequently encounter as you clear the campaign maps. Or you could just buy it on the community market and start using it from level 12, as I think you should. Why use VAAL ARC versus normal ARC skill? Because VAAL gems have a second use or alternate fire mode if you like. In case of ARC gem, it charges up from you killing enemies using normal ARC skill, and then you use VAAL ARC as the button becomes available, allowing you to dish out almost double the damage with one shot to the whole screen and beyond if the lightning can chain further and mob density is sufficient. I'm still yet to find any other build that is more satisfying than using VAAL ARC on dense mob areas, such as when you shift into the Nightmare in Scourge League 3.16 and are surrounded by demons. VAAL ARC allows you to then fry them all with one push of a button. If you didn't have an incentive to play VAAL ARC before, this is it my friends, try it and you won't want to go back. In terms of the build costs, you can start having fun and finish the campaign without investing pretty much anything at all, but why make your life more complicated than you need to? So I do recommend buying a few items on the community market as soon as you can find those at reasonable prices, which shouldn't be very hard, to be honest with you. Current early endgame build has a very few good uniques that I use, and it cost me overall maybe around 15 chaos orbs, which is practically nothing if you're trying to build something remotely solid and competitive to start your endgame adventures with. Even the most lazy players out there would have probably accumulated 10-15 chaos orbs at least by the end of the campaign. Leveling Arc Witch is very straightforward, which is partly explaining why the build is so popular among newbies. Use Freezing Pulse and summon zombies as support. If you really want to, of course, until you get to about level 12, when you can switch to Arc gem as a quest reward and just push ahead with it almost exclusively, supporting it with the gems that I'll tell you about in the next section of this video. Look for VAAL map areas and hope to get VAAL ARC if you insist on playing solo self-found mode, or just go to pathofexile.com/trade, search for VAAL ARC gem and just buy it off someone to save yourself the trouble. It won't cost you much. Use my path of building link in the description that will offer you a clear progression path as far as your passive skill tree is concerned, but I will also show you a screenshot a little bit later in this video in case you don't have access to path of building. No problem, my friend. Now on to gems and gear. Your main gem cluster from the very start of the game, unsurprisingly, will be revolving around VAAL ARC or normal ARC if you don't have VAAL version. Supported by a bunch of gems that make it hit harder, more frequently and stronger. I won't waste your time reading out every single one of those for you. Pause the video and take a screenshot if you like, or better, like I said already, refer to the included link to my Path of Building paste bin export and it has all information you need. Key callouts here though, this build relies on running multiple heralds to hit much harder. It has very low health, surviving thanks to relatively high attack and spell block chance, mobility thanks to phasing of Withering Step, and jumping around with Flame Dash when you are in trouble or surrounded by the mobs. Bastion of Elements Ascendancy skill also gives you a fantastic shield that we'll talk about very shortly in Ascendancy section of this video. The whole philosophy of this build is that it's never going to be a tank build, and passively accumulating a lot of health, a lot of life, won't count for much if a boss still catches and slams you at one point. Witches are much better built around shielding and avoidance mechanics, such as energy shields, which is not my case, but I built it around block and Aegis that we'll talk about soon. Notable gear pieces are on the screen. I recommend that you use a staff for extra attack block chance. Start with yellow rare pieces, maximizing your block chance when you can, mana pool, spell damage, spell frequency, spell attack speed, and critical chance. When you can, look out for these and similar lightning damage boosting pieces on the community markets, pathofexile.com/trade or POE.trade, two different websites. Like I said, all in all, you should fit into about 15 Chaos Orbs, and it is considered to be very cheap. You can always optimize this build further and pay more if you really want to. There are a couple of pieces that I really want but don't have yet, especially when it comes to buying expensive endgame cluster jewels that you really don't need to worry about too much as a starter of Path of Exile or a league. Passive skill tree. I am trying this new format of showing my passive skill tree to address many requests from you guys and girls who don't have access to Path of building and who are not playing on the PC. Hopefully you can take a screenshot and this format is more informative for you. Please let me know if this works better. As you can see, I am trying to make my content more accessible for everyone. Key callouts here that I've mentioned already, we are not going crazy after life nodes. Yes, we'll take some on our way when we can, but we've kinda given up on trying to build a fat witch, as the damage we'll be facing will eat through that life pool very quickly anyway, even if you're running around with 6,000 points. Instead, we are building up towards bare acceptable minimum of both life and mana, then investing heavily into our block chance and skill mana reservation efficiency that will allow us to run many herald skills and wrath aura at the same time, while still having enough mana to keep casting VAAL ARC pretty much non-stop. We'll also run a bunch of golems and invest in those golems boosting our damage and defenses. You can choose to run 2 flame golems, as I'm still under the impression that the damage bonus that they give you is multiplicative, or diversify further and run a stone golem instead. It is up to you. Other than that, we are boosting our lightning damage everywhere we can and ramping up to keep putting points into the cluster jewel that I will be, that will be increasing our lightning damage and any other useful stats such as resistances, mana pool, regeneration and cast speed. As far as Ascendancy is concerned, we ascend as Elementalist and go for Golem nodes first. I personally took both Golem nodes during my first and second runs of the Labyrinth, but upon reflection, I actually would recommend that an average casual player similar to myself invests into Bastion of Elements on their second go at level 55 before things get too hard around the Merciless Labyrinth of level 68. Because that's where, if your random roll of the dice on blocking the incoming damage goes against you, which it does very frequently, you will instantly die when fighting Merciless Izaro. Bastion of Elements gives you a massive damage mitigation layer, at least by the standards of this little witch build, so you really need it to feel a lot more comfortable in the Merciless Labyrinth later down the track. As far as Pantheon gods are concerned, for Pantheon we want to prevent any damage over time we can, such as bleeding, as it's the quickest killer for us. It's something that eats through our health and goes past defenses very quickly. So Relakesh is almost non-negotiable in my opinion. For Major God, I went with Solaris for general physical damage reduction, but following the same logic of preventing damage over time where we can, you could take the Soul of Aracali instead. I also did not deliberately, I didn't forget, but I did not deliberately talk about flasks because my flasks are not optimized at this stage. But one thing I have to call out here is that any flask that prevents corrupted blood effect should be on your belt, because corrupted blood is something that also does that damage over time, eats through your health pool very quickly, and I highly recommend having at least an active mechanic that you can very quickly tap on the flask and prevent that health loss before you are dead. Now on to pros and cons of this build. Pros of this build are quite obvious. It's very easy to put together and build up to becoming quite powerful. There is nothing hard about this build, and it's a massive pro. It is also among the best map clearers out there, if not the best map clearer if you're using VAAL ARC Blast periodically. It is very satisfying to play until you hit a boss anyway. Damage output is actually very good, at least by the casual standards, and when I compare it to my other builds that are not optimized, I guess, for the absolute top end game bossing. If you're similar to me, you're going to find this damage output very adequate. Cons of the build are, like I already said to you, it is a glass cannon. It is a glass cannon build that will die if you just stand there and take too many hits. This is not unique to this particular build though, but you know, a lot of skinny avoidance based builds are the same. All of these builds play with death, so to speak, and require you to stay mobile on the go and move along, rather than face tank bosses and expect to live. It is an active build, which isn't necessarily a con, but if you come from something lazy like totem builds or minion builds, where you run around dodging boss mechanics while your totems or minions kill everything passively kind of for you, this build will make you sweat. Be ready for it. You need to be on the go almost constantly. Bossing, finally bossing. It is not as awful as the naysayers and elitists like to say about this build, I will tell you straight away. But it is definitely not great, it's not the strongest part of this build, it never has been. You need to rely on your high damage output to do a few shots, to throw a couple of shots, then run around for a bit, waiting for the boss to use their often telegraphed slam or the massive attack in a certain direction, before you can risk stopping and shooting again, and then the whole marathon running in circles begins again. This is kind of how you play. This is, once again, not particularly unique, and it's how many relatively skinny avoidance-based range builds work. Witches, raiders, some shadow builds too. This is an amazing build, I truly genuinely love it, and I hope you will enjoy it too. I enjoyed leveling it and starting to clear the end game maps with it. Yes, you can get one short one sometimes, but so did I on some other builds that I've played in the past, including minion and totemic builds that are believed to be relatively safe. It happens to everyone, every build, okay? If you've enjoyed this guide and the build, please show your support, give it a like, leave a comment, subscribe for more videos from me. Enjoy the build showcase that's coming up next, and I will say see you next time. Thank you for watching.